In this video, we are going to talk about SPX, some of its recent price action, the important support and resistance areas, and where we can expect the price of SPX to go in the next few days and weeks. So let's look at the weekly chart, and what we can see here is that SPX is continuing to dump in the last few weeks. It is now all the way down at about 50 cents. Just about a month ago, it was really looking like SPX is going to start its reversal. It got a pretty significant rally in just a couple of weeks, following the major dump by SPX from the all-time high back in July. SPX went down from over $2 all the way down to less than 50 cents. But then, as I said, it started recovering and went all the way up to about 75 cents. But then since then, in the last couple of weeks, it went down to about 50 cents. So what's going on with SPX? Is SPX still in a reversal, or will it just continue to head lower? Looking at this chart, I think that it actually looks pretty decent for a meme coin. Most meme coins have been doing absolutely horribly in the last few months, and basically for the entire year of 2025. And although SPX is in a pretty similar situation, with it dumping about 75% from the high back in July, but the main reason that I see on the chart that in my opinion there is still a lot of room for optimism for SPX is that it is actually still creating slightly higher lows. As you can see from the beginning of the price history for SPX, it has been creating slightly higher lows each time, with the first low being at about 34 cents, and then the second one slightly higher at about 38, and then we got the recent low at about 47 cents. So although with the highs it's not quite as clear, and we've had a very significant dump in the last few months, SPX is still holding onto the structure of higher lows. And if we actually connect these lows, we can see that we have a trend line forming right here, and that we are actually approaching it, and this will likely behave as a pretty significant support for SPX. Right now, the trend line is at about 46 cents, and it will also go up with time. It even was basically the exact price of where the price of SPX stopped dropping back in the liquidation event back in October. So this trend line seems to be very strong support for SPX. So in my opinion, with Bitcoin currently struggling at around the 90k area, it's now just slightly below it. I think that SPX will likely continue heading lower to the trend line and then test it to see if it can get a significant rally from there. If that does happen, then it would also create a double bottom right here on the chart in the last couple of months, and that could lead to a very explosive rally. I also think, as I said many times on the channel already, that Bitcoin will likely get a pretty significant relief rally to over 100k sometime in the next few months. Of course, I can't be sure about the timing of this rally, and if Bitcoin first starts dumping a lot lower and goes below 80k, then that could lead to SPX actually losing this trend line and be really bad for it. But I still think that most likely sometime relatively soon, Bitcoin will get a relief rally to over 100k, regardless of whether we are in a bear market or not. And if at a similar time SPX gets to this trend line, then that could lead to a very explosive rally for SPX. Both of these factors combined could lead to SPX heading potentially all the way up to the next resistance area, which is basically all the way up at about $1.5. There really isn't any significant resistance from where we are at right now all the way up to the area of $1.5. There are some small resistance areas like this one right here at about 75 cents, which is where the recent rally for SPX failed. But if it crosses that and creates a double bottom and Bitcoin heads above 100k and then Ethereum follows it and we get at least some sort of a mini alt season, then I think that the chances of SPX heading all the way up to this next resistance area at about $1.5 to $1.6, I would say, is actually pretty decent. But then if it does reach that area, then that would be a much stronger resistance area. As you can see, SPX only really managed to break above that area one time at the all-time high back in July, and I think that for SPX to actually cross that and even create new all-time highs, it would require Bitcoin to get at least very close to the all-time high and Ethereum to make new all-time highs, which will likely lead to a significant alt season. But if that doesn't happen, then in my opinion, the chances of SPX getting above this resistance area at about $1.5 is pretty low, but still a rally for SPX from 50 cents to $1.50 would still be a rally over 3x and an absolutely insane opportunity. So of course, none of what I said in this video is financial advice, it's just what I personally think. That's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it and you want more updates about SPX as well as other meme coins and altcoins, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.